And now I'm going to just get into this program by introducing our first speaker, Juna Snow, who is a research and evaluation specialist at the Center for Research, Evaluation, and Assessment, Lawrence Hall of Science at the University of California at Berkeley. She brings a formal background as an ecologist as well as 15 years of experience as a curriculum designer, technology developer, and instructional trainer and teacher. Dr. Snow has also honed her expertise in applied social science research, including learning assessment, outcomes measurement, and program evaluation. And she is the author and lead researcher of the RIA study that you're about to hear about. And I'd like to ask her to come up. She's going to tell us a little bit more about the study, how it was done, and in particular, how it showed that project exploration is different from the other projects that look at this issue. Juna Snow.
Okay, thank you. Does this work? Okay, it's good volume. Yes, I'm Juna Snow from the Lawrence Hall of Science, and I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the Lawrence Hall of Science, but great, wonderful. We are a museum that also, so they're for informal science education. Also, we create curriculums. We have different centers in the hall. So there's curricula being developed, assessment being developed, and then our center, which focuses on educational research, evaluation, and assessment. So we were very excited to be contacted by Project Exploration to conduct a program evaluation of their program. And they basically came to us and said, we're at this 10-year mark. We're very interested in looking back and understanding what has happened with our past participants. So we decided to, frame this as a retrospective 10-year program evaluation. So we were excited that it was a request, because sometimes people are motivated to get evaluations because of accountability, and so it's much more fun when the program is interested in learning about itself, and we get to work very closely with the program to help them improve and provide them information that's going to be useful to them. So our goals really were twofold, and first to describe PE's influence on its past participants or its alumni, and two, to explain the organizational practices or strategies that support science learning and for traditionally underrepresented youth in science. So our approach was very systematic, and one thing that we wanted to focus on was looking at this database that they had created to, again, try to capture, document, and track what's going on with their participants. So this was our first place to start. And we also looked at all sorts of documentation, curricula that they were delivering, or their instructional materials, any materials related to their program delivery, also assessments or intake forms, things like that, past evaluations they had done. So basically a document review. And that gave us sort of our baseline to start working on a logic model, which basically works on articulating the program theory and their theory of action. And so we did this through a face-to-face session with the PE staff. It was very great to work that collaboratively and really helped us to understand what their goals were and how those related to their resources and their program design, and really to start to articulate their outcomes that they were really hoping to see across time, short, medium, and long-term outcomes. So this was very helpful, and that was our second major step. So at that point, we sort of formulated some key questions related to the goals, which were around in what ways has the PE staff and programming influenced the educational and career aspirations of the past participants and or the alumni, as we grew to call them, and in what ways have these alumni, their life choices been influenced by being involved in project exploration, and from those, how can project exploration inform their future program delivery or organizational strategies to continue to grow successfully as they had up to that point. So what we did is we first decided to use this database to identify who these past participants were, how we could contact them via email, and we developed an 88-item web-based survey to contact them with some closed and open-ended items. And all of this was done very collaboratively, and project exploration staff was very involved with all the instrument design, item choices. So it really was a big effort to make sure that we were reflecting what project exploration wanted to know about its past participants. So the constructs, or what we tried to target, the three major areas on the instrument involved these, and they relate very much to the questions and the goals, their past patterns of participation in project exploration, their educational or professional life choices, and their science-related attitudes and interests. So our sample came from their, at the time, 904 records of members, past participants, I should say, which included current and the alumni. So 547 of those had email addresses, and then 259 of those were 18 and older, and that's what we were targeting because we grew to define the alumni as having graduated from high school. So we used that 18-year mark as the criterion for their sample selection. So we ultimately got a 30% response rate, and about 65% of them were female, and the remainder being male. So after that, oh, and one thing on that instrument, they opted in to be contacted for telephone follow-up interviews. So to really get more in depth, but we still use those same areas of concentration to work with them, again, probing more deeply into their project exploration involvement, the influence that project exploration had made on their career and life choices, and then what were their future planning to get a sense of their trajectory since project exploration and moving into the future. So what we saw, and I'm just going to include a few of these now and I can talk more about them later, and you also have the executive summary, but basically strongly and resoundingly that project exploration had, and I'm going to frame it sort of in terms of what we had done with the logic model, in terms of looking at the medium and long-term goals, because we could see with current participants they were already achieving those short-term goals very easily, and you would expect to see that. So basically some of the medium they would still be experiencing or demonstrating while they're in the program, but definitely the medium, some of the medium and longer-term goals you would have to see over time and most likely past their time in project exploration. However, they remain so connected with project exploration, which is something that, again, came through very clearly in the survey results and through the interviews. That, so basically some of the things I wanted to mention, highlight I should say, would be that project exploration fostered their confidence to communicate about, and particularly about science, but also just communication skills and being confident in those ways. 96% of them strongly or agreed with that. That they had developed verbal and writing skills related to their experience in project exploration. That 75% of them had graduated, gone on and graduated, persisted to graduate in high school. And again, this is a very, these are very important outcomes in terms of the population that we're looking at, traditionally underrepresented youths in science. So that persistence was very wonderful to see. And along those lines, that 67% of the respondents had gone on to enroll in post-secondary education, which includes university or even graduate degrees. So we were very excited to see that because there was a lot of intuition that these things were happening, but that's what we were here to do, is try to capture this and articulate it and demonstrate it through the data. So we also saw that a very strong influence to influence the science aspirations or pursuits of these participants or past participants as pursuing this as a major field of study in school or in careers, whether they had gone on for post-secondary or even if they had gone directly into a career path. So that they had also developed approaches for solving problems, which is not only useful in science careers, but just in life. And so again, that really relates the approaches and model that project exploration uses in terms of positive youth development and science-centered or focused experiences that engage and create these meaningful, persistent learning in these students. So what else did we see? We saw a lot of good things. That they had modified beliefs based on these experiences. So 93% of the respondents agreed that they received new perspectives about their options in education, for work, for their life, during their time in project exploration. So not even necessarily only limited to science, but just their perceptions on what life can be, that things are possible for them. And they fostered traditionally underrepresented populations to actually go on into science careers. So specifically, not only persist in school and education, but specifically into science careers. 32% at that point had held science-related employment, but many of those respondents were currently in schools, higher education. So that still, for those paths that had gone on to careers, 32% of them had held science positions. So again, we just saw so many wonderful things that was what the PE staff, project exploration staff, had told us that they knew was happening out there. Can we try to talk to these students and find out these participants and see what they had experienced and try to articulate that through the data? And what we saw was definitely 3 major dimensions of increased science capacity in these past participants, positive youth development that influence life choices, life skills, and this engagement in a community of practice with their with project exploration, keeping in contact for over 10 years of keeping in contact, knowing the staff by first names, still remembering them, and saying, I love them, they are my family. So just really just resoundingly great quotations that we heard, and it was just across the board, male, female, whether they had been recent past participants or longer term past participants. It was really a very wonderful finding, because we did strategically and purposely sample those telephone interviews to be stratified across the years of being a past participant, being male or female, and looking across their ethnicities. So again, this was just a wonderful findings, and I'm happy to talk more about that in the panel.